Hello, this is Mrs. Vaughn. This video is for my English 11 class. I am going to attempt to give you guys a little bit more information about writing an outline. The outline assignment that I gave you asks that you complete an outline of the four main characters of the Scarlet Letter. So Hester, Pearl, Dimmesdale, and Chillingworth. You need to create a list of ideas of things about the characters that you want to include. And then complete an outline from that list. Okay, so first, as far as writing the outline, that's section 46 in your grammar handbook. So it starts on page 194. There are two kinds of outlines. There's a topical outline in which each heading is like a word or a phrase. And so you don't include complete sentences. Now, this also means if you have a topical outline, it means that every heading and subheading and detail under that is also a word or a phrase. So you would not go back and forth between like words for the main headings and then have phrases in your details. All of it needs to be just short, concise phrases. Otherwise, you would do a sentence outline in which every heading consists of a complete sentence, no matter what level of the outline it is in. So they give you the form of an outline, which I'll also show you on the screen here at the bottom of page 194. But first, before you actually get into writing an outline, you also need to have a list of ideas that support your subject. So first, you need to create a list of ideas. And from that list, you need to pick which ideas you feel are the most relevant that you would like to include in your outline. So let me go and trade this over a little bit. So, all right, let's talk about the list first. So you're going to have a list for Hester, Pearl, Dimmesdale, and Chillingworth. And I put on here that you can refer to section 56, which is the character analysis that you're eventually going to be using this information to write. This outline is sort of the first step of that. And so when it talks about character analysis, there are certain questions that you ask yourself about the characters that you want to be able to answer in the character analysis. And so on the bottom of page 225 and the top of page 226, they have four main types of character traits that they ask you to look at. The first is the moral character of that person. What strengths or weaknesses do they have? How do their traits affect their life? What are their influences? What kind of choices do they make? Influence is the character a force for good or for evil? How did the character's actions, personality, or choices bring about the events in the story? How does this character affect other people in the story, etc.? Symbolism, obviously, we talked a lot about symbolism in the Scarlet Letter. So are there any symbols associated with this character? How does the symbol reveal him or his purpose in the story? Denotative and connotative meanings of the name. And what does his appearance reveal about him? So symbolism, you can talk about how their appearance symbolizes their inner character. The last one is purpose. What is this character's main purpose in life? Why did the author include this character? Why is this character central to the story? What meaning does he add to the story? So thinking about those, that may help focus you as you're building your list of ideas, like what kind of ideas you might want to include. We did some of this in class. Like, for example, Hester's beauty. So she's beautiful, and that would be a symbol of her. Maybe what does she, or a symbol of their culture? What does her beauty represent in this puritanical culture that she lives in? You also have example for Pearl, like maybe that she is an outcast because of her circumstances, that defines her. Dimmesdale is a minister. And not all of these are symbols. Some of them are just their influence. So Dimmesdale as a minister is an influence for good. He's seen as a very upstanding character in this book by the community. Chillingworth is deformed. He's got, and there's lots of references to that in the story. So you could also say maybe he's crooked. They talk about his crooked shoulders and things like that. So all of those, some of those are symbols, some of those are their moral character or their influence. And so you look for things like that about these characters. You also can talk about their relationship to each other, like Hester is Pearl's mother, whereas Pearl is Hester's daughter. If I could spell. Dimsdale is sickly. I think we've, at this point, as we're getting into chapter 10, we definitely can see that the reason he latched onto Chillingworth, who's a doctor, was because he was in very poor health. And that is both a symbol and there is purpose in that. It brings those two characters together. So look for a list of ideas. You should have more than 4, but you want to pull 4 that you feel like you have the most support for to put into your outline. Okay, so let's go back to my screen, writing an outline. Okay, so list ideas to support your subject. Cross out any unnecessary or unrelated ideas. You have some examples of that in on page 197. No, hold on. Yeah, 197, when you talk about the outline. They have lots of ideas that they included in their outline. You don't need that many. Determine your main headings. I think that's the easiest part. Your main headings should be your character's name. So that's your Roman numerals. And then group the remaining ideas under your headings. Decide which points will be subheadings and which points will be supporting details. And then arrange your points and subpoints in a clear order. Now, they show you what that process looks like going from page 197 all the way to, I guess, the end. Oh, that's in 197 and 198. So when they slowly kind of turn from just a list of random ideas into being grouped in a way that makes sense. And is a little more concise. And then make sure that you state your points of each division in parallel form. The example for this is on page 195. They give an example with stars. So parallelism means that, like, for example, for number 1, if you say white or yellow stars, like the example there, if you're following along on the book, your second point should not be some stars are red. Like, it just needs to be red stars. And your third point, your third main heading shouldn't be blue, white, or hottest. It should just be blue, white stars. So your format should be written the same. They're all topics and not sentences. And then they're all sort of worded in similar ways. All right, so let's look again as far as what my expectation is for the outline. So this is your form. You should have the first main idea, which is going to be the character's name. The subheading is going to be the list of the items from your list of ideas. I do need you to have details underneath those. And those details need to be from the book that support that subheading. So let me get back here. Let's see. Document 1. Okay, so let's say you write your outline. You need, your first one is always a Roman numeral. So let's say this would be Hester. So then your 2 points under Hester are that she is beautiful. Me too, beautiful. And that she is, that she wears the Scarlet Letter. Okay, so under beautiful, you would need to have your details. I don't know why that is so, nope, it's just gonna do it that way, whatever. I need you to either have a quote from the book, and I suggest you go ahead and start finding these now, especially for the character that you are going to be working on, because you're going to need direct quotes, and that states that she's beautiful, or summarize from the book where he states that she is beautiful. And so, for example, another way you could word this, just trying to think of how to verbalize this. So if you have that she wears the Scarlet Letter, obviously that's a pretty big obvious point for her. So you'd want to be able to include that. This is a symbol of her adultery. Can't spell. I don't know. I've lost it. Adultry. There it goes. I knew it would fix it for me. Adultery, or you could say sin. It's just a symbol of her sin. And another is its meaning. Let's see. It changes meaning in the story. Again, it's just a phrase. So you could also have, symbol of adultery, and you could say symbol of, trying to think of what the A ends up meaning. So first it's a symbol of her adultery, and then it's a symbol of her, I want to say acceptance. You can change that later. We'll talk about it as we get closer into it. But the symbol, the Scarlet Letter actually does change meaning as we move, and that meaning changes to the townspeople as well as to Hester herself. And so this is what you need to have in there. Like, so you would have an A, B, a C, and a D because you need 4 main points for each character. And then within that, you need at least 2 details that support that main idea. So if you look in your book, again, on page 194, it gives you the outline form explained. This is the format. So when I talk about what I'm looking for correctly formatted headings. So that means you use Roman numerals for main ideas, which you can see here. So if I go to the next one, for example, mine, did it change? So this one is Pearl. It's being difficult. See, it's automatic, like Roman numeral 2, 3, and 4. Your capital letters are your subheadings. So that's these guys. And then for your supporting details, you use Arabic numerals, which is just our 1, 2, 3, 4. You always make sure if you're handwriting this or typing it and you're not using your headings like this, every single numeral or letter must have a period after it. Must, right there. And you indent each level of the outline. So you can see where mine has already done it. So if you do it on notebook paper, handwritten, just make sure you've got about an inch indentation. The main point there that's really important is number 6 at the top of page 195. If you have Roman numeral 1, you must have a 2, which you're going to because you have 4. If you have an A, you must have a B. If you have a 1, you must at least have a 2. You can have a 3, so you can have an odd number, but you would never just have 1. And then you begin every point in your outline with a capital letter. So, like for example, these need to be capitalized. And that is going to drive me insane that that's not indented correctly. There we go. Same thing for this one. Again, let's see. In a topical outline, state each point as a word or phrase, not a complete sentence. Because they're not complete sentences, you do not place periods at the end of them. So no period at the end, only after the heading. And I think that's mainly it. And just make sure that they're in parallel form. So hopefully that gives you a little more information about those. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yeah, the statement of purpose. All right, this is not hard. All right, the statement of purpose is in section 46.3, letter B, where it says write out your purpose. This is on page 195 of your handbook. Your statement of purpose tells how you intend to treat your subject. So sometimes you're saying that you're going to explain, narrate, describe, etc. In this case, your statement of purpose is essentially that, my purpose is to describe the four main characters of the Scarlet Letter. That's pretty much all you would need. It doesn't need to be a lot, but it has to be included with your outline. And then make sure that everything in your outline does what your statement of purpose says you're going to do. So just to be clear, what I'm looking for is I am looking for a list of ideas. It can look something like this. You can format it however you want, but make sure I would strongly suggest going ahead and having, 5, 6, 7, 10 different ideas about each character, and then pick which ones you feel are the most relevant as subheadings. And then you can also use some of your ideas as your detailing points. Sorry, I'm losing it here. Okay, so trying to think of an example of that, that maybe for Pearl, she is wild, or maybe even considered violent. And that is why she's an outcast, or she's Hester's daughter. So that's why she's an outcast. So outcast would be a supporting detail of why she's Hester's daughter. But when you include that in your detail, also make sure that you have pulled information directly out of the book about that explains in what way she is an outcast. Okay, and that's pretty much all I have. So you're going to come to class with a list of ideas for each of your characters listed outside of your outline, either just at the top of a page or on a separate page. And then you're going to have an outline that is made up of the four main characters, your most important details about them that you want to include, and then, or subheadings as your subheadings, and then some smaller or more specific details to support each of those main descriptors of your characters. All right. If you have any other questions, please reach out to me and let me know, and I will do what I can to help you. All right. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.